The shape of the Earth and a fascinating question. For many years, people imagined the Earth as a perfect sphere. However, scientific research has revealed that our planet is not an entirely flawless sphere. Gravity, rotation speed, and the equatorial bulge cause the Earth's shape to take a more complex form called the geoid. So, how does this fact affect the answer to the question, where is the point closest to space? Defining height, sea level or distance from the center. What criterion should be used to measure the height of a point? Are we talking about height above sea level or distance from the Earth's center? These two measurements give different results. The highest point above sea level is undeniably Mount Everest. However, things take a different turn when it comes to the distance from the center of the Earth. The real question is the point closest to space the highest peak, or a region on the equator benefiting from the bulge? Let's examine both ideas. Mount Everest, Queen of Peaks. Known as the highest mountain in the world, Everest rises 8,848 meters above sea level towards the sky. People believe this is the place closest to the sky, as height is usually measured from sea level and Everest is unrivaled in this regard. But should this assumption be questioned? Is Everest really the furthest point from the Earth's center to space? Or is there another geographical detail that gets overlooked? Because the Earth rotates on its axis, there is a noticeable bulge at the equator. This bulge means that points on the equator are further from the Earth's center. So even if those points aren't very high above sea level, they have an advantage in terms of distance from the center. This leads to an intriguing question. If there's a mountain on the equator, is it closer to space than Everest? Chimborazo's hidden throne. Located south of the equator in Ecuador, Mount Chimborazo is about 6,263 meters high when measured from sea level, lower than Everest. But thanks to Earth's equatorial bulge, the summit of Chimborazo, when measured from the Earth's center, reaches further than Everest's summit does. This surprising fact leads Chimborazo to be considered the point closest to space. Though its height above sea level is less than Everest's, it's the furthest from the center of the Earth. How much further? About 2 kilometers, which makes Chimborazo unique. This surprising fact leads Chimborazo to be considered the point closest to space. Mount Everest, highest peak from sea level, the greatest challenge for climbers worldwide. Mount Chimborazo, furthest peak from the Earth's center, thus the point closest to space. Which one should be considered higher? The answer depends on your definition of height. If measured from sea level, Everest is number 1. But if the distance from the Earth's center is used, Chimborazo takes the lead. Both titles are valid depending on the measurement used. Which place is closest to the atmosphere? Another fascinating question. Where is the point closest to the atmosphere on Earth? Atmospheric thickness varies between the equator and the poles. On the equator, the distance from the center is greatest and the atmosphere appears thinner, making mountains in the equatorial region closer to the boundaries of the atmosphere than others. This brings up another question. If one wanted to reach the stratosphere fastest, which summit should they choose? The answer lies with Chimborazo again. How close to the edge of space? Chimborazo's summit is about 6.3 kilometers high, but its distance from the Earth's center is roughly 2 kilometers more than Everest's. However, the official boundary of space, the Kármán line, is at 100 kilometers altitude, so both peaks are still quite low by that standard. Nonetheless, what matters here is relative superiority. Chimborazo is closer to space than any other summit on Earth. This gives a whole new meaning to the concept of highest, a contradiction in human perception. Why do most people see Everest as the place closest to the sky? The main reason is the measurement standard used. Sea level is an easy reference for everyone. In contrast, calculating the distance from the Earth's center is more complex. Mount Chimborazo is not only scientifically important, but culturally symbolic. As one of Ecuador's national symbols, this mountain challenges our concept of height. What other points could be considered close? So another question arises. If the Earth were a perfect sphere, would these debates exist? Probably not, but the Earth's unique shape makes these discussions scientifically interesting. The earthly gateway to space. Imagine standing on the summit of Chimborazo. You are at the furthest point from the Earth's center that a human can stand. It represents the greatest height accessible to humans, but space is still hundreds of kilometers above. Conclusion: the relative nature of height. The answer to the question of the Earth's highest point varies depending on what standard is used. If measured from sea level, Everest is unquestionably the leader. But when the distance from the Earth's center is considered, Chimborazo stands out as the closest point to space. This proves that height is not absolute but a relative concept. Our perception of the most is shaped by the measurement method. That's why Everest and Chimborazo hold different but equally valuable titles. You just learned fascinating facts about the shape of the Earth and its highest point. Which do you think should be called the point closest to space? Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.